Welcome back to Fresh Rubber. Gavin, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, mate. I've just moved house. I'm in my new room, boxes surrounding me. Life has been intense, but we are so back. And there's someone else that is so back, way more back than me, way more back than you. You've just recovered from chicken pox. That was brutal. We've all been through.
Do not recommend.
We've all been through. We've all been through hard times. But has anyone been through as hard a time as Lewis Hamilton this last 3 years? And and was it so sweet to see Lewis win the Barcelona GP, Jace?
Was it not?
Come on.
Dare I say, and I think you would agree, this is easily the race of the season so far. And it is an absolute thrill to watch him just absolutely school the rest of the field. And I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this was a strategy masterclass from Ferrari.
Wait.
You do not normally expect to hear.
Say that again. So it was a what?
This was a strategy masterclass from Ferrari.
Fine.
And they pulled it off beautifully. It was almost like they'd written the script. They'd found the script lying on the side of the road over there in Barcelona, and they thought, oh, you know what? Let's give this a go. We'll check in and we'll give it a go. And my God, it worked a treat.
Did you hear the race engineer? Lewis, you are closing. You're doing very well. You're doing very well. Lewis, you're winning. You're going for it. We go now. We go. It was almost like Ferrari couldn't believe that they'd done it. That's what it felt like to me. Like the race engineer on the radio was like, he was just like barely able to contain his excitement. He couldn't believe it was happening, and neither, dear viewer, could we, because this is the team that consistently for years and years and years has fumbled strategy across the board. Let me give you some cold hard stats. The last win for Lewis Hamilton was the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix. 2024 Belgian Grand Prix. This was Lewis's first win with Ferrari after being with them for a year and a half. This was the first all-British top three since 1968 or something. The last time Ferrari was on the podium in first place was in 2024 with Carlos Sainz. And finally, this is Lewis's seventh win at Barcelona, taking him ahead of Schumacher, meaning that he truly is the greatest of all time, if we ever needed confirmation. This was a race that had stats pouring out of every pore of its racing body. This was the race of the year. I don't know if we'll get better. I hope we do. I'm sure we will. But oh my gosh, what a race.
And the timing of that pit stop under the virtual safety car that allowed Lewis to get ahead, and not only get ahead but stay ahead, was just magnificent. But I just want to point out the pace advantage that Lewis had. So if you think back to the dominant era of Schumacher, one of the things that he did at Barcelona was an extra stop. And this was one of his sort of strategy masterclasses from the Ross Brawn era, which was to go one extra stop, which meant that you were able to push your tyres harder than those around you, and therefore you were able to do quali laps essentially all the way through the race, whereas the others had to manage their tyres. And this is exactly what Lewis did. He called it, Ferrari called it early. They were the first to stop, and then they also stopped earlier, and in his medium stint, he was almost 2 seconds a lap faster than those around him. It was just, he was in a different race in Barcelona, mate. It was like Lewis had just completely checked out, and he was in the race 2 races over, whereas Mercedes and McLaren, they had good pace, but they could not match this, and they didn't have, let's say, the bravery or the inspiration to go for a 3-stop race as well. And George, oh my God, do you think he's the luckiest guy on the racetrack behind Lewis Hamilton this weekend, or do you think he's got his gripes?
So listen, I've got some feelings about this, and if you're not aware of what we're talking about the fact that obviously George qualified P1, led the race for a time, and then dropped back, and then towards the end of the race, Kimi who's obviously our championship leader, was biting at his heels and eventually took him. In fact, not eventually, quite quickly when he got close enough, he took George. And it was the most brutal moment if you're a George fan or if you're George Russell, which is basically you've qualified first, you've led the race for a section, you at least want to secure a P2 out of this and prove finally to everyone that on one track this year you are quicker than your teammate.
Well, two, if you
Yeah,
count
yeah,
Australia.
if you count Australia, but you know what I'm saying.
But also he did so, he was... No, go on.
No, but where I'm going to get to with this is that just as you think you're about to kind of prove a point, maybe begin the semblance of some kind of comeback against this young genius Jedi kid, he overtakes you. And then the only thing that saves you is the fact that his car literally just stops working and pulls over and he doesn't finish. Like, so on one hand, if you're George, like it makes no difference because your teammate overtook you and he was quicker than you, and everybody knows, the press, the fans know that Kimi would have beat you, and that really would have been the end. It felt like it would be the end to me of this year for him. However, I was walking down the road tonight and I was like remembering something from the race, and that was the black and white flags. So Kimi was one black and white flag away from a penalty for track limits. So basically he was pushing so hard that he was going over track limits. So my only question to you, if you want to go with a kind of a George bias, is like you can't beat someone if you're going over track limits all the time and say that you were beating them on pace, can you? You're basically breaking rules up to the very edge to kind of get that close to them. It shows the desperation from Kimi to prove that he is quicker than George no matter what. But it was It was a risky moment. So I don't know. I don't know if I feel like George should feel entirely dominated because George didn't have one set of black and white flags.
Oh, look, I think you can tally up your black and white flags till the cows come home. Race drivers are going to go and push to the limits. So they're going to push as far to the white line as they can and get away with it as often as they can. And if you can go that far and not get a penalty, then every lap should be going that far. And sometimes you go a little bit over, and that's the risk-reward ratio that every driver has. But the thing about George's weekend that I think must rankle him so much is that this was the weekend when he felt like he was back in the groove, right? This is the weekend when everything was going smooth sailing.
It's good to be back in the groove.
It's good to be back in the groove.
He said over the radio.
He put it on pole by some margin. So he really
What
did
was the
school
margin,
the field.
Jace? What was the margin?
It was 3/10.
Yeah, okay.
3/10 over his teammate. Lewis Hamilton was right there with him, so Lewis wasn't going to let him off easily. But this was the weekend when things did seem to be coming together for George, and he put it on pole by a decent margin. Now, the race is the thing that undid everything, because George... He's able to put it on pole and he leads from pole. That's great. But everyone's struggling with tyre degradation. But his teammate, his younger, more inexperienced teammate, is able to go faster and get past him despite that. And the only thing that saves George is this mechanical failure that Antonelli suffers a couple of laps later. Despite putting on quite a ballsy move going down the main straight, and George put quite a defensive shape on it, and Antonelli still managed to get past. So I think, the lucky part of it for George is that he turned what could have been a 3-point loss to his teammate into a 15-point gain or an 18-point gain on his teammate. So what was a 68-point lead that Antonelli had is now cut to 50 points. So there's a benefit to George, despite him being overtaken, and despite him not being able to manage the tyres in the way that others were, and losing to Lewis Hamilton from pole. So he's got to be a mixture of feelings right now, because on the one hand, it was a damage limitation situation for him because he didn't win, but he was able to get points on his teammate. But on the other hand, none of it points to him being the dominant driver.
It doesn't.
It's what he's trying to reclaim in that team.
I think if anything that you've said in this podcast hits the nail on the head, it's that he did not prove in this race that he was one on the verge of making a comeback to the dominant driver in the team. So I totally agree with you. What is what is really healthy though for this team is that they've both had a DNF now. So George in the previous, Kimi in this. So it's actually brought that maybe slightly unfair 60 odd point gap back down to something a bit more honest about the season so far. And I think,
Yeah.
so like we're kind of around 40, 45 points or whatever it is, difference between the two, which feels more reflective of their performance this year. So I'm grateful for that. Like, and I'm sure George is grateful. Like, I had a DNF, he had a DNF, nothing we could have done about it. But you're right, George is going to have to go away and do some serious thinking about his risk aversion because I will agree with you if you can get 3 black and white flags and be 1 black and white flag away for track limits from a penalty, which is basically what Kimi achieved, and overtake your teammate and fly off into the distance, then you have gamed the system.
Exactly.
You've done the risk reward perfectly, and you've said, look, I can go off the track 3 times to get faster lap times, but in doing so, I will get past him, and then I'll be very, very careful after that. So you're right. He's smart. Kimi is smart, and he's so fast. And I think a bit like with Max and Lewis. Do you remember when Lewis just kind of decided that he was going to take the fight to Max back in 2021? Obviously,
No, honestly, I don't.
oh, and he just kind of like decided at Cop's corner to like totally take Max out. He was just like, if you're going to drive this aggressively, I'm going to. Towards the end of the season, Hamilton got so sick of being forced off the track and kind of bullied by Max. He eventually decided, and so did Lando. Lando had that moment with Max as well. Max brings this out in everyone eventually. It's like, if you're going to play dirty, I'm going to play dirty. I think what George needs to do now, if he stands any chance of getting back anywhere near Kimi, is he's going to have to find the limits. He is going to have to find the limits and he's going to have to push right up to the edge of them. And that might mean disaster. And that's fantastic for us as viewers. I'm going to enjoy to watch that. But yeah, fascinating. But look, another point, and you can speak to this. Lewis is now 41 points behind Kimi and number 2 in the Drivers' Championship. Do we dare, dear friend, dear listener, do we dare believe one last time?
You called it.
Did
You
I?
called it. You said all we need is 3 Kimi DNFs, and Lewis is right back in it with a chance. We had one race later, we have a Kimi Antonelli DNF, and Lewis is right back in it. And not only that, he's like bouncing. He's got all the energy. He's got the team behind him. The radio is bopping. Lewis is all of a sudden riding on cloud 9, and this is unbelievable to me to think that Lewis could round out this season an 8-time drivers' world champion in a Ferrari. So that would be, if he does pull it off, that would mean, so first of all, he's won for 3 different constructors now. He won for McLaren, for Mercedes, and now Ferrari. So that's a tick. He would also have won drivers' championships with 3 different constructors. And I'm not sure that's I don't know if that's been done before, if it's done very often. So it would elevate him yet again, but it would also give us such amazing drama because I think Kimi and Lewis going toe to toe with all the respect, but all the sort of feistiness between them, I think there's going to be some drama, and I'm all for it. This could be a better season even than last season when you think about the sort of the tension, the young and the old. And then there's George in the background going, but what about me? I'm still here too. It's popcorn. I'm so here for it.
Yeah, it's so good, man. It's exactly what we want out of the season. It's yeah, I just wonder if this almost is going to inspire the Ferrari team, like everyone back at the factory, everyone back at head office. Like, I wonder if something like this just kind of makes them like fight for it in a new way in every aspect across these teams are huge. There's like thousands of people like working away. Like, I wonder if it inspires something. I would love to see. I mean, they brought upgrades this race, by the way, and oh my days, are they working? Where Ferrari have lost that kind of mini turbo boost off the line. Everyone seems to have kind of adjusted, and they don't get away as quickly as they did ahead of everyone in the first 3 or 4 races of the season. They've lost that, but they've picked up race pace, like kind of long pace throughout the race. They seem faster in a straight line. That the cars, people seem to be like, particularly Lewis seems happy with the car. Like the development's going the right way. So yeah, fascinating moment.
And you know who's also in the sidelines, sort of going, "What about me?"
Lando and
Is Charles
PS. Oh,
Leclerc. No.
Leclerc. Yeah.
Charles Leclerc. So Charles is sitting there like a bobblehead that's been completely knocked about, and he is all of a sudden questioning his life choices. So he's come up through the many seasons driving with these Brembo brakes, and all of a sudden he's thinking, "Oh, hang on, I've got to think about chasing down some of the setup that Lewis has got, so I'm going to go with the carbon industry brakes instead." He's, I would say, trying too hard to drive his car, and that showed up in qualifying. He's shaken. He's obviously shaken by the events that's happening around him when he had been better, faster, and schooling his more esteemed colleague last year. This is a different story. The team's been reshaped around Lewis's needs. The engineering is changing. What Lewis wants, Lewis gets. And Charles there going, "But I just signed another multi-year contract. What about me? What about what I need? Aren't I the loyal Ferrari forever guy?" And yet he's not getting results. Lewis is. Charles is reacting, and it's not working. So we've got these two always bridesmaids, never the bride, sitting on both sides of the Mercedes and the Ferrari situation.
Yeah.
I think that's just fascinating, don't you reckon?
Yeah, I think that's so true. Like, I mean, just hearing about Charles saying like, "I want Lewis's brakes. These aren't working." But what it makes me and going and changing his braking setup to Lewis's provider is really interesting. That does feel desperate. Like you should be confident in what you've built with your side of the garage, but clearly he's
Over many years.
my concern is if what you're saying is true, are we seeing, like, for example, we know that Lewis has decided not to use the simulator anymore. That's nuts. Like that's like Lando when he said, "I don't want to know on my steering wheel where I am in quali. I don't want to know what sector times I'm doing in comparison to anyone else." That was genius for Lando, by the way, because then he just like gave less of a shit and just was like, I'm gonna do the best quali lap I can, and I don't care if where I'm sitting in the field and where I'm sitting in terms of my own personal best. And it really helped someone like Lando. And yeah, it feels like Lewis is doing the same thing. He's like, that simulator that you guys go and stress on every night and like practice the tracks, and like, I'm not gonna go on the simulator anymore. I'm just gonna go and drive the car because actually I'm a 7-time world champion, and as soon as I get in that thing, I know what response it's giving me. So I think Lewis is entering his Lando arc from last year, where he's like, take away the data, let me feel it, let me experience it. I know what I'm doing. That's really cool. Whereas Leclerc is like, "Oh, can I try his brakes? Can I what can I do?" And but my only concern is, please don't let this be a situation where they design the car so much towards Lewis's needs that you end up with a Max Verstappen style car that only Lewis can drive, and Leclerc begins to suffer, because that's kind of sucks for Leclerc, right?
I don't think it's going to happen for two reasons. And I love the kind of use the force mental imagery that you're giving me when you sort of describe that. It's like, do, there is no try. Take the gadgets away and use your feelings. I think Lewis is actually unlike Max Verstappen in that Max likes the really pointy front end, but Lewis is often complaining about the lack of rear grip.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'd end up with a like fast mouse pointy cursor situation like what Max seems to prefer, when he's really keen to rotate the car quickly at the
Oh,
front
sorry,
end.
I wasn't saying a similar setup. I meant more a car designed around one person's driving style is what I was
Yeah,
referring to.
okay. That's
But
fair.
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know, Jace. I don't know if decisions are being made, and maybe you do, if decisions are being made around the Ferrari that are favouring Lewis's driving style because of his influence in the team. I don't know. I don't know if you know that, but that would be a concern if Leclerc's suddenly starting to feel very uncomfortable with the car and Lewis is beginning to feel very comfortable with it. That's all I'm trying to go at.
Yeah, it's that destabilizing factor that I guess I'd thought we might see last year, but we didn't see it last year, and it's only now taking shape. And you do wonder, how many more years does Lewis have in him? If this is the year that doesn't quite happen, is he going again next year?
Definitely.
And if this
Definitely.
is the year, if this is the year when it does happen, it all comes together and he gets his eighth world championship. Is he sticking around next year, or is he saying,
Dude, dude,
"Mic drop,
dude,
I'm out of here"?
the tiger became a pussycat for 3 years and cowered in the corner. And then the pussycat tasted blood again and is becoming a tiger. That is how I see it. His hero arc, this is his hero arc. He was a tiger. He kind of went into a dark, shadowy realm where everything didn't work. And now I feel like he's tasting blood again, and he's like, I know what I want. Like, I'm not saying it means he'll win this year. I don't think he will. I think Kimi will win this year, but I'm saying, like, for someone like Lewis, just that feeling again. He was physically shaking as he got out of that car. He feels it all. He is a purebred competitor, and I just think this is enough to give us, like, I would say this race is enough to give us another 1 or 2 years of Lewis at least, and it's enough to give Ferrari the desire. What's he got? Has he got one more year after this? No, he doesn't.
I
No,
don't
this
think
is
so.
it. This is it. So they either re-sign him this year or they don't. They will. They will. They will. Will
Surely,
they?
surely,
Will
surely. I
they?
mean, I would put it down to his willingness. So if he's still in it
Really?
and in it to win it, then yeah, why wouldn't you sign him for another year? I mean, frankly, who else have they got? They got Ollie Behrman. They're going to promote Behrman from Haas? I don't think so. It's not like they've got a deep bench of junior
Max?
drivers. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't
You
know
know,
why. I just don't see that happening.
Schumacher. Schumacher was saying again.
You mean Ralph
Not
Schumacher?
Ralph. What's his name?
Mick?
No, it wasn't Mick. Who's the other Schumacher that was always talking to the press? Anyway, one of the Schumachers was saying today that Mercedes, that Max went to Red Bull. So Max went to Mercedes to offer to drive for them. So like, there's a world in which we see Max. I can actually see a world in which Max joins Mercedes in the next couple of years.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, it's all
So I
rumors,
think
but
I think for that to happen, Russell's got to step aside. I think that's the natural course of affairs, because I don't see, given all the investment that Mercedes have put into Kimi Antonelli in the years, I don't see them stepping away from that as their.
oh, Kimi's going nowhere. Kimi's going nowhere. He's there for the next. He's at Mercedes for the next 7 to 10 minimum, and he's going to win multiple world championships.
If
Multiple.
Mercedes can keep their eye on the prize and stay ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. What struck me about the Barcelona Catalonia Grand Prix, watching it as I did, was I couldn't take my eyes off the top four. I cannot tell you why Gasly and Colapinto finished where they did. I can't tell you what happened between Lindblad and Lawson. I don't know. I don't remember. But this was electric. It was magnetic TV watching the strategy race unfold between those two teams, Ferrari, Mercedes. The McLarens were kind of there, but not quite. Max was there, but not quite. Very quiet race. This was just like you couldn't tear your eyes away from it. And there have been many races in the past where that has not been the case, where you think, I might go make a cup of tea. But this one was just, it had that draw, and you didn't know. You didn't know, okay, it looks like Lewis is actually faster than the others, but is he going to be able to get ahead? Oh, hang on. What about Kimi? What about George? How is that going to unfold? Are they going to take each other off? How is it going to end? This race was just so electric, Gav. It was the best race of the season, but I don't know what happened to most of the field. And it sounds like you don't either. And 8 of them retired. There were 8 DNFs, which is the greatest number that we've had this year.
Are you serious?
8 drivers didn't finish.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm just seeing that. Just look at that now. And that shows also how little I was concerned about anything going on down the field.
Exactly.
I am thrilled that Gasly got his redemption arc and got his P3 from the last race. I thought that was really nice. The only thing that I'm sad about for Gasly, so for those again who maybe aren't up to speed on this, I'm sure everyone is, but Gasly got I think did he get 1 or 2 penalties?
2 5-second penalties.
2 5-second penalties for speeding the pit lane. Alpine were the only team who went to the stewards and contested it, and the penalties got removed, so he got his P3 back, which is amazing to think. And I guess lesson learned for all the other teams, like, go and contest these things after the race. Don't just give up. I mean, the worst case of giving up is like thinking of Lewis Hamilton in 2021. I still would love to have a chat with Toto about why he didn't contest what happened in 21, but it just goes to show, bring it to the stewards and the FIA after the event. So Gasly got P3 back. The only thing I'm gutted for with Gasly, who, by the way, where is Gasly sitting in the standings? He's sitting 8th in the driver's standings. That's pretty incredible. But I'm gutted that he didn't get to stand on the podium, splash the champagne. Like, that would feel like, great, thanks for giving me my P3 back, but like, to be up there would have been remarkable, wouldn't it, for him? It would have been such a boost.
I think part of the reason why the other teams didn't seek a right of appeal was because they'd served the penalties in the race.
Okay, fair.
So there
was nothing.
Apparently, there's no way to deal with that because it's done. It's like you can't unserve
do you know
that
what?
penalty.
I didn't know that with that kind of penalty, you can have it taken off your time at the end of the race if you just carry on. But if you pit, you have to take it, right?
Yeah.
Which, I didn't know. But that's, yeah.
Yeah, and with George's drive-through, you have to serve it within a certain number of laps of being given the penalty. So even Mercedes, they couldn't have just sort of forgot to serve that penalty and then had that action later. Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Like with deferred podiums and celebrations at the following race, it's always a bit of a letdown in a way. It's sort of like a wonderful thing, but you don't get the thing, and you also don't get to take back all that angst and anger and emotion that you felt from the loss when you had the podium taken away from you. So it's not like they can give you back good times. It's like, it's such a damp squib of a thing. But he does get the points, and he can say he finished on the podium a week later in Monaco.
Yeah.
So and considering like the talk about the depths of despair that he would have felt last year driving around in that tractor of an Alpine in 2025, it's great. It's great. And also he qualified ahead of his teammate, I'm pretty sure. So that's another thing in his favor.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, I'm not sure about that.
It's yeah, he did. It's an interesting kind of, you've got Kimi leading, Lewis 41 points behind, George, 50 odd points behind. It's an interesting 4, 5, 6. You've got Charles, Lando, and Oscar sitting there, all within 7 points of each other. So it'd be fascinating to see the way the year shakes out with those 3 and Max. Like, let's add Max in there in terms of like top shelf, top tier drivers. Max, Oscar, Lando, and Leclerc. They're all kind of sitting in there. George and Lewis are basically 9 points apart. I think my greatest fear for this season is that George does come back really strong, and we do just get an Antonelli, George, Lewis. Like even
Why is that your fear?
it's
That sounds like a great thing.
well, it's my fear. My fear is that Lewis drops out of P2 and therefore out of
Oh,
content.
okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's a very euphoric feeling to have Lewis Hamilton, and almost like a metaphysical, like strange feeling to see him P2 in the drivers. And look, we're a chunk into the season, right? Like we've
Yeah.
we've lost 2 races because of the Strait of Hormuz, so we're down to 22 races. We're a third of the way through, and he's P2. It's not like we're a few races in. Like we're in deep to the season.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We are definitely there. And let's not forget, if Lewis does manage to get P1 by the end of the year, he will have overcome the biggest points deficit in F1 history. So it's like a tall order for him to do that. But if anyone can do it, it's our guy. It's Lewis Hamilton. But all all it really takes as well is, like you said last time around, a bunch of really either DNFs or bad results for Antonelli, which we have seen in the past, and it's fair game. Like it's whilst we are a chunk of the way through the season and Lewis is P2, and that's super exciting, there's still a lot of races to come. There's still a lot of points on the table, and all it takes is someone with a championship winning mentality,
Yeah, to grind it
and
out.
who's done it before and isn't going to trip over at the sign of difficulty, who's got the mental fortitude to be able to go the distance, and now seemingly has the self-belief back to be able to get it done. So I don't know. I think the sort of the odds surely would be swinging slightly in Hamilton, more towards Hamilton after the results of the weekend, right?
Absolutely, to capitalize on you remember Max last year coming 2 points from Lando. He just grinded out. They've got this kind of saying in, like, when you in trading and stock markets, you kind of get these IPOs like SpaceX that just happen, where they just shoot up and then shoot back down. Everyone sells, and you got these kind of very volatile charts. And then you've just got things like the S&P 500 that just, in stocks, they call it grinding it out. They just grind it out higher and higher. It takes time, but over a year, they just, whatever you put in, you're fine. It's gonna grind out. That's the kind of year Lewis needs to have. He just needs to grind it out, take opportunities where there's DNFs, where there's Kimi and George fighting, where there's problems. Just like, you stay consistent, mate. You do not have the quickest car, Lewis. Like, there's no way in the world that I can see that he will have the quickest car. But not always does the quickest car win. So
Well, he qualified six tenths, 600, sorry, behind George
yeah,
on Saturday.
yeah,
So that's pretty close to the quickest
it
car.
is.
And then with the right strategy and the right driver, he had, well, by far the quickest car. He was 2 seconds a lap faster than the rest of the field. So if the conditions are good and the rubber is fresh and the guy's got the bit between his teeth, I don't know. I think you can't ride him out.
What's our
even
next
if
race?
Even if his car is slightly slower. Austria
Austria.
at the Red Bull Ring.
Okay. Interesting.
One of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
The thing I love about the Red Bull Ring is that it is just absolutely gorgeous to look at
Yeah.
from almost every
So
angle.
beautiful.
And you get this incredible elevation change.
Yeah.
You sort of zoom up to turn 1, zoom up to turn 3, and then everything else is downhill.
Yeah.
I love it. But one thing that I remember looking at the calendar after last time, we talked about this being the Spanish Grand Prix. This is not the Spanish Grand Prix that we just watched.
No.
It's the Barcelona Catalonia Grand Prix.
Yeah.
We've got another Spanish Grand Prix coming up later in the year.
Yeah.
We're going to be at the Madrid Ring, or Mad Ring. The Mad Ring. How about that? So we actually have some more Spanish. We have another opportunity for the two local boys to actually, maybe finish a race. That would be nice for Alonso, in Alonso's case. And Sainz did okay. But yeah, we're actually coming back to Spain later in the year at a brand new racetrack that we've never seen before. That's pretty exciting.
It's so exciting. I love a couple of Spanish races. It's hot. It gets them all bothered and wound up in the heat. Um, Speaking about this track, like, what a phenomenal track! Like, uh, the only comparable track I can think of to this, and I'm no expert in tracks, by the way, so I'm just going to put that out
Which
there.
track are you talking about?
Catalonia, the Barcelona GP, the one that we've just
Hmm.
had. The only comparable track in my mind is Silverstone, and I say that just because of the kind of the huge, sweeping, devastating corners that absolutely demolish your tires. Like it's a 50-degree track. It was a 50-degree track. Huge sweeping corners, like tide, degradation like you've never seen. Um, it often forces a three stop just because of what it does to the tires. Um, it's the longest run to the first corner. It's an incredible track, I think. And actually, you talked a bit, Jace, about how you didn't really recognise much of what was going on further down the pack. I didn't realise this, but 90% of races in Barcelona have been won from the top two, P1 and P2 of qualifying. So it's like it's not really a massive overtaking track, is it? It's a punishing track on tyres, and historically you need to qualify really, really well to stand a chance. It's not Monaco level where it's almost impossible. We did see overtakes, but yeah, I think it's a fantastic track, and it reminds me of
Yeah.
Silverstone.
The other thing that's unique or used to be unique about Barcelona is that they used to do all their preseason testing there. So Barcelona was the place where all the cars would come out at the start of the season. And so as a result, all of the teams knew the setup for Barcelona.
They know it
They
well.
had that,
Yeah,
they've done countless laps there. They know the setup which works, although the temperature's different. But it used to be this kind of boring race, I think, because they all just knew the track too well. That it was like they could drive it with their eyes closed.
yeah.
But since they've shifted the preseason testing to Bahrain, that's no longer the case. And I think we're getting better racing in Barcelona as a result. We're getting more variety. We're getting teams that don't have everything kind of nailed on from FP1. Speaking of, I'm kind of not a fan of the rookie drivers appearing in FP1. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Gav. But to me, it's like a throwaway session. Even though I know the drivers need the time in the car, it's super important, it's valuable for them. But it's like, okay, so Lewis didn't have an FP1 because Bogdanovich was in his car. Kimi didn't have an FP1 because Fred Vesti was in his car. Whoop-de-doo. But it's like I don't really even bother watching the FP1 when there's all these rookie drivers because it's not representative. You can't compare FP1 to FP2 for those drivers that are actually in the race. So, yeah, what do you think? The FP1 with the rookie drivers, is it sort of a dud thing for you, or do you think it's actually critical for those younger drivers coming through?
As you were saying it, I was thinking, why don't you open the track up to them the day before or the more like a few hours before and let those rookie drivers. But I think what they want is they want and need those rookies or those pre-rookies really to experience the pressure of to be on track with what could eventually be their peers. They want it to feel real. Um, but it does feel frustrating, and it feels like imagine imagine it comes down to like a championship winning few points, and you look back to a race where you didn't get your FP1, you didn't get your eye in, and you lost points on that, for example. Like I'm sure there's examples where you can pin back that lack of a driver having an FP1 to them not winning or like not doing as well. So yeah, it does feel weird. It feels like a really weird thing, but let's face it, mate. F1's the weirdest sport in the world. We're talking, we're talking about a sport where a safety car basically takes any lead that you've developed and just completely destroys it. Just like, again, 2021 with Lewis being the greatest example of that. Like, you've got this huge lead. You've worked so hard for like 60 laps, and then some idiot crashes out, and then you've got your fiercest competitor like 2 meters behind you again. Like
On fresh rubber.
how is this sport? How can we ever look at this sport as in any way fair or not weird? I don't know.
Yeah. I hear you. I totally hear you. I wasn't going in for the fairness and sporting angle. I was more
I
going in
was.
from the as a fan. I don't really find it that interesting watching the rookie drivers
Do
go
you
around.
find
And
FP1
also,
interesting?
yeah,
Okay.
not always, and it's not always at a good time. But FP1 is like the drivers getting their eye in, and it is. I think it's worth watching
I
if
watch
you've
them
got the
all. Don't
time.
get me wrong. I watch all of it,
If you've
mate.
got the time and the
But
inclination.
do I find it interesting? No, I think FP3 to me is like the best because it's like, okay, guys, let's see your pace. Like it's almost like the pre-qualifying, isn't it? They're all just like, unless they're sandbagging where they're pretending they're not as fast, which I think a few teams have done a bit of this year, particularly
Yeah,
Mercedes.
yeah.
But yeah,
I think the other part of it is with the pre-rookie drivers, they're always on like don't break the car
yeah,
driving
yeah, totally.
programs. So it's like, okay, Fred Vesta, you drive around with like a bunch of aero rakes and things monitoring the air wash over the car, drive at 50 k's slower than the maximum speed around every corner, and just do not break that car. It's just not that exciting. Um, but yeah, look, the Austrian Grand Prix coming up, that is always a highlight in my calendar.
Yeah. Hey, do you
And
remember?
I'm
Do you remember the? Do you remember that run up to turn one up the hill last year? Do you remember the ground effects cars just sparking like crazy and just like being forced down on like burning the tarmac? I wonder what these cars will do because they're not sucking them so hard with the ground effect, are they? They're not sucking them to the surface.
No, I guess they might not. Although they're still, when you're going
You think they
up an
bottom out?
incline, you still do get that compression into
Yeah.
the road. I just hope we get both Max and Kimi finishing the race this time round. If you remember last year, Kimi took out Max at turn 3 on lap 1 because he just misjudged his braking and
Yeah.
completely skittled into Max Verstappen. Good times. So I'm hoping that this time round they get through lap 1 in one piece and that Kimi does not open the demons to the European leg of his Grand Prix season. Having a DNF in Barcelona, it's one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse for Kimi
Not
Antonelli.
his
So
fault though.
fingers
Not his fault.
fingers crossed.
Not his fault. And
No,
he
but also Imola last year wasn't his fault. He had an
right.
engine failure there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
I hope
we
the
can hope.
opposite. I hope he does wobble through this leg, and I hope we get an exciting kind of second half and final third of the year. I hope he does have to fight some of his demons. It's been a bit too easy so far. Well, I say that it's not been easy at all. He's worked, incredibly hard, so it's not been easy. But what I'm saying,
Grand Slam in Monaco. Let's
be-
not call that easy.
because I am not partisan this year, as you know, Jace. I've decided not to be partisan. That nearly killed me. I nearly had an aneurysm last year trying to see Lando across the line to win it. I decided,
Hang on. Can I ask? Can
yeah,
I ask if Lewis is genuinely a contender
I'm going to
for
stay
the
chill.
championship? Are you seriously saying you're going to stay non-partisan?
I'm going to stay chill because I literally nearly had a breakdown last year. I'm joking. I didn't. But like it did. I did find myself on certain days like rather depressed, rather glass half empty rather than half full because of Lando's travails. So I'm not doing it this year. I will not do it to myself. But yeah, I do want. I think I just want to be a fan again. I just want to enjoy. I just want the best man to win, or the best woman. We need a female in F1. We need a female in F1.
May that day come.
Yeah.
Look, I think fandom has its costs, I guess, is what you're saying.
Well, it's going to
And
cost you, Jace, because you're the biggest Antonelli fan I know. It's going to cost you real hard if he falls off in the European leg. And I
yeah,
and I will
it
be
will.
here. I will be here to soak up the tears.
Well, likewise, I was just going to say, with Hamilton, if it does come down to the wire and those days re-emerge, I'll be here to put an arm around your shoulders, mate, and we can commiserate together as we watch Kimi Antonelli sail off into the
I think
sunset.
I think Jace. I think basically you know and I think you're intimating this, you know that if Lewis gets close, I'll get reinvested. You know that, but I'm not getting
Yeah.
invested just yet because my prediction is, my feeling is that that was a beautiful race this weekend just gone, but I just do not trust Ferrari to be consistent for a year, and
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's
hear
why
you.
I'm not letting my heart go there for Lewis.
But is this a different Ferrari?
No,
That's the question.
no,
Okay. All right. Do you know the funny thing was, I think it was the radio communication to Lewis was prompted in part. This is what they were saying on the broadcast, was prompted by Fred saying, "Hey, like, give him some encouragement,
yeah.
please." Like, the guy's a human. He's got real emotions, and he doesn't know where he is on track relative to the rest, because he's not, unlike Max Verstappen, watching this show on TV with the rest of us. He's actually in the car driving, and he's got all the emotions. He needs the encouragement. Even if he is remembering who he is, he still needs the pep talk.
You know
Keep
what?
going. You're so
Do you
close.
know what I think happened? And I can't prove this, TJs, but I feel like Ferrari, as in like not the management, the upper echelons, Fred and everything, but I reckon people were quite nostalgic about Sainz. And as we said, Sainz won their last podium. That's this has been the first podium. Sorry, not podium. Won the first race. Ferrari. I wonder if Lewis entered a team where they were like, "Oh, here comes the big shot. Let's see how he goes." Like, I just wonder because they were so cold to him last year on the radio. It just felt like they just didn't care about him as a person. They didn't feel there was no warmth or they didn't feel excited to have the 7-time world champion on their team. So I wonder if he's had to really fight to like almost find a place in this team. As crazy as that sounds, like most people would think Lewis Hamilton, like amazing, this is so exciting. But I wonder if that's not what happened to him. I don't know what you think about that. And maybe
Yeah, I
now
think.
they're like, oh, we like this guy. He wins. He wins good race for us. Like I don't know. Like is it that basic?
No, I think what you're saying is really apt, which is, I think Carlos Sainz is a very beloved figure.
Yeah.
You'd be hard pressed to find someone who could say a bad thing about Carlos Sainz from anyone who's worked with him or worked alongside him or even competed with him. And so the loss of a Carlos Sainz, and the way that change happened was Carlos was dropped because Lewis was signed.
Exactly.
And then they had a year of dealing with that, the impending loss of Carlos Sainz. And I think there is a real emotional connection that the teams feel to their drivers. And even the 7-time world champion, he might not have had as warm a reception
Yeah.
as he might have liked.
Yeah.
And also there's Carlos Sainz is Spanish, so there's a kind of similarity
Yeah.
there with the Italian
Yeah.
culture, whereas Lewis is British, and there's differences there. So I think you might be right, man. Like that, it actually took him remembering who he was, but also fighting tooth and nail to get the sort of arrangement that he needed around him in the team, and then for the team to kind of recognize him for who he is, that the Lion is what it is. Yeah, I think you might be right.
So I think
Well said.
I think if I was a Ferrari employee, I would have looked at that move as like quite cynical, like I suppose they're getting him in because he's bringing more money, or like he'll do more paid partnerships. Like this guy's washed. Like he hasn't won anything for years. Like since 2021, he's done nothing. Like so, I imagine there would have been some cynicism around that. But I think what's so important about a weekend like the one just gone in Barcelona is that Lewis has been able to be like, guys, I can win stuff for you. Like, back me. I can, if you give me the car and you give me the strategy, I can win stuff for you. I might be old, long in the tooth, 41 years old, but I promise you I've still got it. So I think my hope, the optimistic side of me says Ferrari will now, as a team, wake up to what they've got on their balance sheet. And yeah. Anyway, enough about Lewis.
Yeah,
We've got a great
well
race to
said.
come. I'm so excited to watch it. I'm so excited for a number of reasons. I want to see Lewis perform again. I need to see him perform again for hope to really kind of come alive. I want to see the George and Kimi battle continue. I want to see does like Kimi brush this off, Or does this kind of put a bit of a dent in him? Does George go away, do some thinking? Like, there's so much in this next race. What about Leclerc? Does he have an axe to grind now that Lewis has won? Like, does he want to come out and beat Lewis in qualifying and dominate him again? There's so many little narratives going on. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, and this is the track that's historically had all the track limits issues. this is the one.
I forgot that.
This is the track because it's such a short lap, and the last two turns are the ones that are taken. You always try and take it as fast as you can, and it always pushes you wide.
Yeah.
So there's this there's this risk reward aspect for every single lap. It's exciting. I remember this is the first circuit that I ever watched a Formula One race live. This was, in 2020 when they resumed after the whole COVID thing. And Lando Norris goes well at the Red Bull Ring as well.
Yes, he
was
does.
Last lap Lando, getting on the podium there for his first time with McLaren. So I'm looking forward to a Lando showing this weekend as well.
Yeah.
Max usually does well at the Red Bull Ring also. Bring it on. I can't wait. Red Bull Ring, Austria, the sights, the sounds, the colours, if only the smells of Austrian highlands. This is perfect for me.
I'll see you there, my friend.
Adios.
Adios. Nice.
Nice slice.
It's so funny, man. We were like talking and I was like, I feel